Hello, everyone. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about something that shapes our life quietly, and that is corruption. Corruption is when people in power misuse public power for personal gains, and it is usually seen through bribery, through favoritism, and bending the rules from friends and allies. In every corruption case, government institutions weaken, and everyday life for people like us becomes harder. And the UN in 2021 estimated that every year $1 trillion is paid in bribery and $2.6 trillion is stolen through corruption, which is a lot. And this is impacting the developing countries, especially since the amount stolen is 10 times more than what is being received in official development aid, which means that people are not receiving what they are getting, which is help. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Arkan, for coming today. He is our guest speaker. Mr. Arkan Siblani is the Regional Chief Advisor and Program Manager for Anti-Corruption and Integrity at UNDP Arab States. And he is a leading expert in governance and in citizenship in the Arab region.
Thank you for the invitation, Jad, and it's a pleasure. It's always great to speak to the new generation, young people who are trying to understand and make a difference, and we need more of you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to start with the first question. So my first question to you is, what is really at stake? So when most people hear the word corruption, they might think, okay, this politician is corrupt. He probably is supporting his friends and allies, providing them with jobs. He might be stealing a bit of money here and there, but it might not be that big of an issue. But as UNDP states, UNDP often describes corruption as a development and a governance problem, not a moral one. So what is really at stake if we don't face corruption? And how does it impact our daily lives as normal citizens?
The question of corruption is a very old question. It's as old as governments, cities, civilizations. And it's not only UNDP that characterizes corruption as a development problem. It's the whole international community nowadays. And the international community has evolved a lot over the years to recognize the gravity of the corruption problem. Corruption is not just about breaking a law. It's about systems that ultimately impact the lives of people. And I can share 3 key ways through which corruption impacts the lives of people. The first way is the most obvious one, which is when money intended to serve public interest gets pocketed by people in power. And the direct cost of corruption, money actually stolen, can be up to $3.6 trillion a year, which is a huge amount of money, almost equivalent to the financing gap in the development community. What do I mean? I mean that the money stolen through corruption is almost equal to the money we need to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So by fighting corruption, and you cannot, fight all of corruption everywhere at the same time, but you can reduce that direct loss. But other than direct cost of corruption, there's the indirect cost of corruption through bad procurement of equipment, bad projects, through bad performance. The quality of services is diminished. You don't get quality education, you don't get quality health, unless you have to pay out of your pocket, and even then, there are things that the private sector cannot do, and COVID-19 was a great example of the importance of the public sector. So electricity, water, the roads that you drive on. The reason why your car goes to the, mécanicien every once in a while is not because the car is bad, it's because the roads that you are driving on can eat away at it. So the thing here is that there is direct cost and indirect cost, but also there is opportunity cost. When corruption exists, it creates obstacles for investors, for entrepreneurs, young people like you who want to stay in their country and work, a young person who wants to establish a business, a big investor that wants to come to a country and put their money into a big project. Corruption creates an obstacle. They have to pay this person and that person. They don't have electricity. They don't have, infrastructure. So what happens? They don't come. Young people leave. Entrepreneurs prefer to take their business elsewhere. So what does it mean? Less jobs, less money generated, less economic growth, and also less taxes generated. So you have direct cost, You have indirect costs that we feel in everyday life when we breathe polluted air because inspectors did not enforce the law on the factories, and you have all these pollution happening. So you have direct costs, indirect costs, and opportunity costs. And if we want to break it down, it can go much, much deeper. But I believe this is fine for this podcast at least.
And Jad, unfortunately, this resonates with us directly. And أنا as a Lebanese citizen, every day we have problems with the waste management and the usual electricity and water problems. And it's obvious this is done because of corruption. So yeah,
yes,
your answer is on point. In addition, me as a person, I've really heard a lot like إذا بدك job بسرعة لازم تعرف حدا من هون. You must know someone from here and there. So yeah, what you said is really, really on point. Okay, now moving on to the second question, and it is about fighting corruption. So we often hear that active citizenship, which is participating in the public life, is needed to fight corruption. But it is not just about having good laws. So do you know what are the citizen-led initiatives that can actually fight against corruption? And what are some examples you have seen that actually led to an impact?
Corruption is a complex problem. It has many dimensions. It has a political dimension, it has an economic dimension, legal dimensions, cultural dimensions, behavioral dimensions, and so on. So to counter corruption, you need a systems approach. You cannot fight corruption simply by goodwill. And we see many politicians in many countries who get elected and say, we want to fight corruption, But the question is not what, is how. How are you going to fight corruption? So if you don't understand the complexity of the problem, then you will not embrace that complexity and come up with a proper response. So citizenship is part of the response, and it cannot be the only part of the whole of the response. So many countries nowadays are being requested by the UN Convention Against Corruption, which is a relatively new convention adopted by the United Nations that provides a framework for what needs to be done by countries to counter this problem. And it provides a roadmap of minimum standards that need to be adopted. Part of it is societal engagement, but there are others. So here, I would say, if I want to answer your question directly about citizenship, I would say citizens can be part of the solution, just like they can be part of the problem. How are you part of the problem? By looking the other way, by just engaging without reflection with all the corrupt practices, by voting to anyone just because they are close or they are part of your confession or clan or family or region. And that's how you can be, or you can just give up. And all that, you are part of the problem as a citizen. Being part of the solution means you need to engage by voting conscientiously. Maybe you don't have the great candidates. I always hear it. You know what? I want to vote right, but there are no good candidates. So what? Vote for the best one you find. Because the good people who are ready, who want to run for elections, are looking and seeing people are not voting for good people, so why should we run for elections? So it's like a virtuous cycle. You break the vicious cycle by voting, by engaging in public life, by organizing through civil society organizations, to advocate for reforms, to monitor government performance, to use laws that are being adopted, even if they are still new or limited. Use them. Laws are like a knife. If you don't use the knife, it becomes dull. It dies. You have to use the law. Access to information law is a great example. And one initiative we've seen here in Lebanon, we've seen elsewhere in Tunisia, for example, where now government accepts that to be asked about public money and public decision. Are citizens using the law to ask? Somebody would say, yeah, but they will not answer. Well, let me tell you, they are answering. And if they don't answer, now courts are starting to take action. Yes, we are far from an ideal situation. There's no ideal situation anywhere in the world. But if you cannot get it all, you should not leave it all.
So it's not something that happens overnight. It's a step-by-step process and a consistent process where everyone works together towards solving the problem.
Absolutely.
Do you think not having... I think not a lot of people are really aware about what needs to be done. What do you think schools play a role in fighting corruption?
Look, I think it's really important that the youth and are part of this. They are the future, but they are also part of society today. So schools can integrate concepts of transparency and accountability in curricula, can do extracurricular activities to make people the youth, responsible citizens, understand what it means, and also, and this is important, encourage them to engage in society. If you, from a young age you start engaging, then you are more likely to engage at an older age. So a lot could be done. Schools, universities have a critical role to play, and in United Nations and in UNDP in particular, we are keen to support all these kinds of initiatives.
Okay, now I'm gonna ask a question that is like, you can answer it directly as if I'm asking this on a personal level.
Go ahead.
So a lot of our listeners today are university students.
Yes.
And we know from studies that corruption affects young people's access to education, jobs, and trust in politics. So, and especially here across the Arab regions, many young people feel that the only way to escape corruption and bad governance is to emigrate and to disconnect from public life. But from your perspective, what does citizenship mean in a context where so many are either leaving or disconnecting from public life? And for the people who sacrifice and stay here, how do you motivate them and tell them what they're doing is not wrong?
Look, being part of public life, contributing to better your society, to better your country, is not a transactional issue. It's not like, you know what, what's in it for me? That's the wrong question to ask. I cannot ask everyone to sacrifice like you put it, but just because you put it in terms of sacrificing, it means something. It means that people feel that they are missing out if they stay or if they help. I think, and I want to be very clear about it. Nobody is an angel, nobody is ideal. People who feel that they have no option but to leave, you cannot tell them stay. But those who have an option to stay, maybe they should consider the trade-off of staying and contributing to better their countries. Countries are not just hotels that we come to for vacation. They are our identity and our future. And I invite university students to build alliances with each other. Not everybody in government is bad. Not everybody in the judiciary is bad. Not everybody in business is bad. And not everybody in society is good. Just like the corrupt are building alliances, you should build alliances, and I'm very happy to connect with as many young students as possible, because that's where we can start making a dent for a better future.
Thank you so much for your time today. This was an amazing conversation, and I hope this conversation can help us, the future generation, to fight corruption and make our country great again. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.